Okay, welcome everybody. In this little video, I'm going to be talking about kind of the day in the life of an encapsulator, what that looks like, what the process looks like. You'll get a really good idea of how this can fit into your schedule, whether you're super busy or not busy at all. I've personally prepared about 300 placentas, all while working full time, and I've been easily able to do that, which is one of the reasons why this job is so appealing. There are lots of women that are deterred from this business just because they have the perception that it's super time consuming and hard to fit into a busy life. A lot of birth jobs are, which is where probably that perception comes in. A doula or a midwife or a lactation consultant, a lot of those times are going to be kind of on call, where this job, you are on call for the birth of a baby, but you don't have to be there for a 10-hour labor or longer or sometimes shorter. But so really, this is one of those like ideal birth businesses. You get to be there with the new mom, you get to see the new baby, but you're not committed to this huge chunk of time where you have to kind of carve out your entire schedule. So I've been doing placenta encapsulation since 2011, and I have served families while being a stay-at-home mom as well as being a full-time working mom. Again, the flexibility that this business brings is really wonderful, on top of all those wonderful connections and bonds that you get to create with the families that you're serving. So it's really important in this business to have goals for your business. How many families are you going to serve? What kinds of families do you want to serve? What kinds of births do you want to be a part of? Depending on your time and space capacity, you can process as many placentas as you physically have time for or you want to take on. Some encapsulators have more than one processing station with a sink, a dehydrator, capsule machine, mini fridge, all those supplies so that they can process more than one at a time. Other encapsulators, I would fall under this category, and probably most of you will too. We'll just kind of keep it simple, have one setup, process one placenta at a time. For me, it's a really good way to keep myself in check. I tend to overwork and I tend to get excited and do way too much, and then my family suffers because of it. So having one processing station is the way to go for me, just so that I don't overdo it. When I was a stay-at-home mom, I was doing probably 5-ish placentas a week, up to 25 placentas a month, which is a lot, but when you think about the hands-on time, which we'll talk about here in a couple minutes, it's really not that much. It's not that time involved. As a full-time mom now, I'm homeschooling 3 kids. I work full-time. I've definitely decreased my client allowance to about 1 a week or 4 to 5 a month, depending on the month. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less. You have to be flexible because it's birth. We never know when those babies are going to come. But this business is really what you choose to make it. So if you don't want to work very much, you don't have to. If you want to work a 10, you can. That's the beauty of it. And you get to choose that. So prenatal meeting. So when a client will call you and they'll be interested in your service, I always set up a prenatal meeting. It's usually 30 minutes to an hour. And that depends on your client, if they have questions, what kind of questions they have. Some clients don't want a prenatal meeting. They just want to book, pay their deposit, call it good, which is fine, especially if I have a repeat client, someone who's already used me, who's already had me do an encapsulation for them. They don't really need me to go through all the everything with them, how it works, the process, what they can get. We already have that relationship, so they can call me up or text me, say, here's the situation. Can I do it? Can I not? Am I available on their date? Great, you are. Awesome. I have an online form. They can just go fill out their online form. They can pay online and they can call it good, and I block their due date out in my calendar. So those clients are actually really easy. The time requirement is much less because you're not blocking out that prenatal meeting time. And some clients honestly just don't want a prenatal meeting, even if it's someone that I've never met before. They may just not have time for it. They may live a couple hours away. I live in more of a rural area, so, a lot of people live far from each other. So it's not always an option to do a prenatal meeting. For first-time clients, it's definitely my preference to have a prenatal meeting because I like to know the person before I show up at their house or the hospital or wherever they've had their baby to pick up their placenta. It's kind of weird to walk in and be like, "Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm here to pick up your placenta." Whereas if we already have met, we've established that relationship, the client's already established trust with me, and vice versa. It's much easier to walk into that birthplace and everyone's already comfortable. So I rabbit trail a little bit, but once I've had my prenatal meeting, if the client wants that and the client services are booked, I collect their deposit, $50 or half, depending on what you prefer to do for your business, is usually pretty standard. I charge $50 for my deposit. As soon as I get that deposit from them, I put their due date on the calendar, and then I plan to be available for them 2 weeks prior and 2 weeks following that due date. Now, if I have a vacation planned already, or we're going out of town for Thanksgiving, or we're going on family vacation, whatever it is, if I'm not going to be in town, I'm always very upfront. I let them know that right away, just in case they would like to go and choose someone else. And if they'd still like to use me for their services, then I will set up a backup plan that they're comfortable with. So I have a backup in my area that I refer clients to, just in case something like that does happen. That's always a smart way to go. But either way, be upfront with your client. Hey, I'm not really sure if I'm going to be in town. I know I'm going to be in town or out of town this weekend. So if you deliver, then we can set up a backup. Just so your client's informed, they're not caught off guard. There's no surprises when you've had when they've had their baby and you're not there. So just good to be honest and upfront at the beginning. So once their due date's on my calendar, I use their deposit money to go buy all the supplies that I need for their specific encapsulation. I always buy jars, capsules, things like that in bulk, so I almost always have them on hand when a client has booked. But I do take it into account when I do a reorder. I'll just order a lot more. But sometimes I'll need to go buy an extra bottle of alcohol or extra dropper bottles. I don't always buy, there's certain things I don't always buy in bulk. My gloves, Costco has great gloves, just so everybody knows. So I go to Costco, buy my gloves, make sure I have everything I need, and then I'm ready to go when they actually have their baby. And I'm not caught off guard when they say, hey, I'm in labor. And I'm like, oh no, I don't have jars. I don't have capsules. I don't have any of the things that I need for them. And then I'm running around like a crazy person trying to get it all done before they actually deliver. So it's good just to use their deposit money to have all the stuff and be done. So you'll want to make sure your clients know to notify you when they've gone into labor officially. The best way to do this is to have it in your contract. Some clients do best with a reminder. I always send reminders to my first-time clients or first-time moms, because usually those moms who have never been in labor, never had a baby, their brains, and if any of you have had children, you know this, your brain gets funny when you're in labor. You can't think straight, and many people forget. So I always with a first-time mom or a first-time client, send a reminder, hey, don't forget to give me a call when you're in labor. I know, you're not due for 3 or 4 weeks, but I just want to send you a little reminder. People are always really thankful for the reminder, and most of the time that's enough to get them to notify you when they are in labor. It's really important. This helps, just that notification helps to prepare, to make sure I have all my ducks in a row. Everything's ready. If I need to go get stuff for their smoothie, I can do that. And when you get that phone call, there's always a level of excitement and anticipation that comes with it. If you've been in the birth business, you know what this feels like. The baby is coming, the family's expanding, you get to be part of the beautiful experience of birth, and there's really no comparison that I can think of. Like, it's just magical to see a woman who's not had any children go from not having a grid to what it's like to have a child to then becoming a mother. It's such an honor to be part of that experience and that sacred time in someone's life, and it's just the physical transformation that takes place is absolutely phenomenal. So it's the best. Okay, so when do you work? You get to pick those hours. You don't want to work in the middle of the night. You don't have to work in the middle of the night. Your client or their spouse, family member, doula, midwife, best friend, whoever it is, will let you know once the baby's born and the placenta is ready. Many encapsulators guarantee a pickup within a certain number of hours and don't do pickups before or after certain times. So they'll set business hours like, I'm available for pickup between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Personally, I don't have that. I'll pick it up whenever. However, I do let people know I'm a very heavy sleeper and I do not wake up to my phone. So all of my clients know in advance to notify me as soon as the placenta is ready, but that it may take me a few hours before I can actually get there. This policy protects my sleep, first of all, and it doesn't commit me to something that's impossible for me to do because I do not hear my phone. And then if it is during the middle of a workday, it allows me to finish my workday, get everything finished up at work if I need to, so that I'm not committed to, oh, I have to cancel all the rest of my clients for the day to go get this placenta. If clients just know in advance, I have a little bit of a window before I can be there, then there's no expectation and nobody's disappointed. I also have a 72-hour drop-off window. So once I pick up the placenta, I guarantee it back within 72 hours. This gives me the ability to get everything done and delivered without having to take time off my other job or go into a crazy frenzy trying to get everything finished up and ignoring my husband and kids all at the same time. So it's really important to have those standards set, like those expectations set, so clients, they know that they can trust what you're saying. Hey, I can have this done in this many hours. I can have this done in this many hours. I will be there by this time. This establishes trust with them, especially if you follow through. It's very important. And set realistic goals for yourself so that you're not committing to something that really isn't possible and letting someone down and disappointing your client, because you don't want to do that. Preparation timeline. I always start my encapsulations or prepping for them in the evening after my kids are in bed. Even if I pick the placenta up at 6 a.m. that day, I will not start it until the evening after the kids are in bed, and I'll put it in my designated placenta fridge until that evening. It's the best and most convenient time for me. Plus, I don't have to worry about my kids trying to mess with the dehydrator. When I did do some in the middle of in the day, when I was first starting, I was just trying to figure out what worked best for me. And they didn't really bother it, but it was always something I was worried about. So if I do it in the middle of the night, I don't even have to worry about it because nobody's up wandering the house in the middle of the night. And then just depending on the preparation method that my client chooses and other factors like how dense the placenta is there a lot of blood volume, thickness of the slices. Usually it's done in the morning when I wake up, not always. If it's not, I'll just add a little bit more time. And if it is done, then I remove it from the dehydrator and I continue processing it. This is where having a dehydrator with a timer will be so beneficial to you, because you can say I put it in the dehydrator at 10 o'clock at night. I'll set it for a certain number of hours depending on the placenta, which you'll figure out kind of as you go. I'll set it for usually 6 to 8 hours, and then in the morning it's done because it's automatically turned off. The dehydrator shuts off at a certain amount of time. I'm an early bird, so I know I'll probably be up right as it's finishing, and then that gives me a chance to check it and set it for more time if I need to. So that's like a timer on your dehydrator. You will love it. Soon as I have an idea of when I'll be done, I update my clients and let them know, hey, I'm finishing up your capsules now. I should probably be done within the next 20 minutes or hour or however long. This will allow us to coordinate the best time for me to drop everything off. And it's also a really good opportunity for me to find out how the mom is feeling. So if I need to adjust dosage, I can do that before I deliver. I can write it on her bottle. When I arrive to drop off the capsules, I'll walk through all the dosage with her to make sure she's comfortable with it. If she's resting, I'll go over it with her husband. The drop-off averages about 20 minutes for me, but sometimes much less or much more depending on the family and their need for space. So sometimes a mom's like, hey, I really need some extra help. Can you help me? Or they're like, I just want to rest, and the drop-off will be really quick. So it really depends on your client. It depends on what's happening, and it depends on where they're at in their postpartum. Okay, next thing, we'll talk about getting paid. Typically, clients will pay a deposit when they book their encapsulation service, which, like I said before, for me is $50. Some people require half. Depends on you, your business, what your overhead is. And then I allow them to complete the rest of their payment anytime before they're due. Usually, like around 36 weeks is when people will pay the rest. If not, they pay when I pick up the placenta. It doesn't always work this way, because when you have a client who never booked service with you and they call you out of the blue and say, hey, I just had a baby, it's in the fridge, or the baby's not in the fridge, the placenta's in the fridge, and I really would like it picked up to be encapsulated. Can you do it for me? And those people obviously haven't paid me anything. They never booked my services. So usually I'll just say, yep, that's fine. Here's my fee. I'll be there at such and such a time to pick it up. Please have a check ready or cash or whatever. Or you can send it to me like in a Cash App or whatever they have. So it is also overwhelming for parents sometimes, even if they did plan for your services, to have to worry about paying during the pickup process, especially if they forgot, which if they're a first-time parent, they probably did. They most likely forgot. So I'm always very upfront with people and say, hey, sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge for parents to have that ready when I pick up the placenta, or it's kind of catches people off guard because they forget about it. So I usually recommend that parents put a check or cash in the hospital bag so that it doesn't get forgotten, it doesn't get skipped, and they can be prepared. If they choose, they can also just send it, like I said, with one of these awesome payment apps. They can just send you the money, and that removes a lot of work for them. The important part is that you do get paid before you process the placenta, because sometimes this has happened to me one time and I learned my lesson, but it was not a fun lesson. Sometimes I have a client who books my services, or it's a last minute, hey, can you come pick up this placenta? They don't have their checkbook, they don't have cash, their phones are dead, whatever the case is. I take the placenta home, I process the entire placenta, I make capsules, I make tinctures, I do a smoothie for them, everything. And then they change their mind. And they decide, oh, I think we're going to wait. We didn't really have the money, or I think I'm feeling pretty good. I don't think I need the capsules. So when those kinds of things happen, like I was stuck now with a finished product, a bunch of time invested in this placenta, and no client to pay me. So when those things happen, it's really on me because I did not require a deposit. If you do get to a birth and someone doesn't have the cash, or they don't have their check ready, or they don't have a phone that they can just quickly send you cash with, I just say, well, let me know when you have all that ready. I'll take your placenta home now, but I just won't start it until you've paid. And that's a really reasonable request, and clients are always very, very okay with it. So bottom line, it's really important to get paid before you do all the work on your encapsulation. Bottom line. So all in all, your time invested in preparing a placenta is about 2.5 hours. Supplies range from $10 to $20 depending on how your client wants a placenta prepared. Do they want a placenta print? Do they want art? Things like that. Those things all cost money. So the profit margin is very high in general, especially considering you're putting 2.5 hours into something that you're making a few $100s off of, and then your supplies are 10 to 20 bucks. So it's definitely worth the time invested. In my area, which I mentioned before, it's pretty rural. My profit is around $200 per placenta. In larger cities, it's going to be much more because your rate's probably going to be quite a bit higher, which then will increase your profit margin because most likely your costs won't go up that much. The business is profitable. It can easily turn into a full-time income. Plus, you get to see all those cute babies when they're born, which is my favorite. So all together, this really is such a wonderful business to be in. You get to work when it's convenient for you, within reason, of course, because you're on the baby's schedule. You get to be in this amazing and beautiful world of birth without having to be up all night long or with a mom who's laboring for 37 hours, unless you want to do that, but you don't have to. And then you'll end up really with a wonderful community of birth workers who love moms and love babies and have beautiful hearts to serve those new families and those new moms. So it really is such a wonderful business. I'm so blessed to be part of it, and I'm so excited to be able to tell you about how wonderful it is, and I hope that you get to take this journey as well. It's absolutely wonderful.